Good morning and welcome to the second of our 3 sessions on Aging with Grace. This morning we have Angela Reeves, who is a board-certified family nurse practitioner with Primary Care Associates. She works on a daily basis with patients focused on their health and their nutrition. So we are delighted to have her bring her expertise to us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Roseanne, and good morning to everyone. So first and foremost, I want to start by saying anything I say today, make sure you follow your primary care provider. You know, there's a lot of different chronic illnesses out there that we all deal with. I think probably one of the most, the ones that are the hardest to control because it's a lifelong, daily, 24/7 is diabetes. So if anyone here has diabetes, that is actually my specialty. And so I've been a diabetic educator for many, many years. So anyway, that being said, anything that I say, talk to your doctor about it or change doctors and come to me, and I will do that. So basically, healthy diets is a lifelong, as I said, process. But when you get to a certain age, we try not to limit a lot of things. I was telling a few of you before everybody got here, you know, I've always had a rule of thumb, if you're over the age of 80, I certainly don't tell you what to eat. You've obviously done something right. Put it down. Okay. Done something right all of those years. And so, but we do concentrate on the diabetic patient because we know that no matter what age you are, if you indulge in a lot of sugar, sugar does not heal, sugar kills. I will tell you that. There is no bodily function that improves from the ingestion of sucrose, of sugar. Fruit is wonderful. And fruit with every meal is something that we do suggest, even in our diabetics. Down more? Okay. I wonder if it'll... Well, I tried it, kept falling off, but I'll try it again. But anyway, fruit, and whenever you're looking at your fruit juices, it is a no added sugar. You know, a lot of times people will look at their fruit juices and it'll say 22 grams of sugar. Well, if it's no added sugar, that's the fruit, okay? That's the fruit that you're ingesting. So, and there again, with diabetics, we leave fruit juices in a juice glass. Here in the state of South Carolina, we put it in a big Clemson or Carolina cup, and but it needs to stay in a juice glass. So sugar is something that we really do focus on. Sugar does not really have any health benefits. And then we concentrate on saturated fat. If you think about saturated fat, saturated means laying in fat. Okay, who wants to eat something that's laying in fat? And so when you, I've got a little, do you have a PowerPoint? Okay. So I had something that I had given to Roseanne that I wanted to put up, but it was basically how to read labels. I don't think y'all don't have that in your handout. So basically when you're reading labels, in all the studies, I've got something from Medicare.gov, Health.gov, CDC, it's always saturated fat, sodium, and sugar. And so when you're reading labels, if you look at saturated fat, you want to get less than 1 to 2 grams of saturated fat per serving, okay? You'll see your trans fats, your mono unsaturated fat, but fat just it just doesn't make you feel good, okay? And so it's saturated fat is a pretty easy to spot. I mean, if it's something's going to be solid at room temperature, you know, bacon grease and things like that, that's saturated fat. Not saying that you can't have them, but just limit them in your diet, okay? And then sodium is another big one. Sodium is one that we do concentrate on in the aging population, especially if you've got heart issues, heart failure. I mean, years ago, I could put somebody in the hospital and just change their diet, and so their heart failure would go away. But can't do that anymore. Medicare doesn't pay for that. And so sodium, there again, reading a label, if you can get less than 300 milligrams per serving of sodium. Now, when you look at a label, such as I'm just going to pick out a Campbell Soup, Healthy Choice, cream of mushroom soup that we put in casseroles, you're not eating the whole can. And that can is 600 milligrams per serving, but you're not eating that whole can. So don't stay away from things like that just because it's got that much sodium in them, because you're not going to be eating that whole can of soup. Just limit added salt. We like to tell folks to use sea salt. It's coarse. You can basically count the grains of sea salt that you use. People don't usually ingest as much of that, okay? So, and then so saturated fat, sodium, and sugar, those are really the three things that we concentrate on. I do a lot of teaching to folks who, they can't read. They might not have money for apps. They might not have money to go to the bookstore and find something on nutrition. So we have to be very basic. And I think when we keep it basic, people are more apt to adhere to those guidelines. And so that's the rule of essence: saturated fat, sugar, and sodium. Now, also, too, in the aging population, one thing we want with every meal is protein. As we get older, we lose muscle mass. Protein is imperative. If I tell folks, just for breakfast, if you just feel like you don't want to eat, just grab you a couple of tablespoons of real peanut butter, not reduced fat. Even though you got your saturated fat, those are your good fats. And just eat those 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. You've got to have some protein for your muscles, okay? A chicken or a cheese for lunch, and then, of course, your evening meal. And then as far as water, does everybody like to drink water? Does everybody know how much water they need? Yeah. That's right. Yes, right. Yeah. Half of your body weight in ounces, okay? It's just a good rule of thumb. And I always use a Dasani water bottle as an example. That's 20 ounces. I can multiply 20 times more than I can do a 16-ounce bottle. And so I just have folks to grab that bottle, or sometimes we do tea glasses. Those are usually 12 ounces. And I lay it out for them when they come in. I said, this is what you need per day. What happens as we get a little bit older, say you end up with, and I see this every day, a stomach virus. Well, if you wake up one morning with a stomach virus and you haven't drank enough water every day, then you're already behind the 8 ball. You get dehydrated. We all wake up every morning dehydrated. And why is that? Because we're in bed for 8 hours, and our last drink of water may have been with dinner the night before. So we've basically gone probably 10 hours without water. That's almost half of a day, okay? So if you try to, yes? No, that's a good question, especially if it's caffeinated, because caffeine is a drying agent. So if you have caffeine, you are, that doesn't have caffeine in it. Yeah, and that's right, and that's why we get. No. And that's why we have Sprite and ginger ale at the hospital. That's exactly right. I'm glad you brought that little example there. It's because it doesn't have caffeine in it, and it's not a drying. It doesn't dehydrate you. So just getting your water in, hopefully by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then maybe just a sip with dinner, just so you're not up all night going to the bathroom, because we all have issues with that too. Things kind of go south, and we don't want to get up all night using the bathroom. So, and then if you drink alcohol, we don't limit alcohol in moderation, because alcohol dehydrates you as well. Okay, so how you know you're dehydrated? If you urinate at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's yellow or smelly, you're dehydrated. You haven't had enough water yet. Okay, so if you have chronic kidney disease and see a nephrologist, they're going to limit your intake. Or if you have heart failure, but if you're on a medication like a diuretic or something like that, it's even more important to do that. So dairy, this little thing here, Start Simple with My Plate, this came off the USDA. On this website, if anyone's good at using the computer, they have a lot of good information under this website, the USDA. But it focuses on the pretty plate, your fruits and vegetables, your grains, and then, of course, your dairy. And it talked about low-fat and fat-free. If you think about, I don't know if many people that drink whole milk anymore, a lot of people like whole milk, but if you think about milk, whole milk is 3% milk fat, okay? They don't put that on there. So less than whole milk, you have 4 things better than that. You have 2% fat-free skim, okay? So if you look at whole milk, it's good to just put in your coffee if that's what you want, or heavy cream. A lot of my patients say, well, can I use heavy cream? Well, sure, you can, because you're not drinking the whole thing. You can't undo good by 1 teaspoon of something. But whole milk We kind of reserve that for our babies because it's just really not a good thing to have. And then, of course, it mentioned your protein with every meal. Okay. Now, snacking. Snacking is okay. We encourage snacks, healthy snacks. There again, people like to snack on nuts, popcorn, plain popcorn, any of your crunchy vegetables. So snacking is okay. So basically, I also like to mention meat. A lot of times people have this idea that meat's not good for you. Here in the South, I think we were told that about 25 years ago, because what did we do in the South? We couldn't wait to get our mouth on that fat part of that ribeye. We chew the cud off of every piece of meat. And so now that there's lean meats out there, I went to a huge conference at Tulane several years ago that was not sponsored by any drug company. It was just on health and nutrition. And the title of it was, "Where's the Beef?" And they really did hone on us. From the American Heart Association was there, the American Diabetic Association, and the Joint Commission on Hypertension. And they said, let your people eat meat. That's your iron. That's your vitamins, okay? But the lean cuts of meat. So there's nothing wrong with beef, okay? Nothing wrong with beef. We do like our chicken and our fish, okay? We get all of our dietary needs we like to get nutrition-wise. Another thing that I like to mention are vitamins. Now, there again, I'm not going against anything that your providers may have told you, but what we're seeing right now is so many people getting so many different things on these infomercials. We're scared of those things. A lot of people are into turmeric right now. I really don't know what it does for you. Some people seem to just all of a sudden have a red cape on their back when they take it. But we say get it dietary. People are getting pills of things. And the only vitamin that we suggest to folks is the one-a-day Centrum Silver, or the Centrum Silver, or the one-a-day. Vitamin D is important. Medicare does not cover for us to check a vitamin D level on anyone unless they've had documented osteoporosis or a fracture. So we just say vitamin D over the counter. This document from USDA talks about that because years ago, what did we tell you to do? Stay out of the sun because you're going to get cancer, So a lot of people aren't out in the sun anymore. A lot of people with Scandinavian type look don't get enough vitamin D. And of course, any kind of calcium supplementation. If you can get it dietary, that's great. You have your calcium tablets, but a lot of times those are cause constipation. So as far as anything else, we also want to mention to our aging population to avoid fad diets. Everybody's doing a keto this and a 90-day this and a 21-day that, and those are worrisome as well because you just can't do that when you're on medications and when you're aging gracefully because they're of no benefit whatsoever. Okay. Fasting, we don't mind if people fast. That's been going on since Adam and Eve. Fasting doesn't kill anybody. I think I fast 2 days a week. What my fast, I've never read the intermittent fasting. I work with Dr. Iskov, who's of the Jewish faith, and so we just kind of do it together. And I just don't eat after the evening meal the night before, and then I eat at 12 and 6 the next day. But you also have to watch when people do that you eat good quality foods at 12 and 6. A lot of people think that gives them the right to eat the whole house. And so intermittent fasting just makes you feel good. Years ago, people were going through these cleansings. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? People do that. Those are dangerous as well. So we don't need to cleanse our body of food. We don't need to. We just need to, whatever we put in our mouth, we just need to take stock of that it's good and healthy for us. So. Any questions about anything? Really, it's just sticking to the sugars, the sodium, and the saturated fats. Exercise. The American Heart Association, the American Diabetic Association do more research together than any other entities. And what they've come up with after years of trying to figure it out is this has been for years now. They say 4.2 days a week. Well, I don't know what the .2 is. I think I've come up with thinking it's 20 minutes, but 4 days a week for a good 45 minutes to an hour, just getting your heart rate up a little bit, and that can be just walking. I do 4 15-minute bursts a day. I'll do jumping jacks. I'll do walk in place. I walk in place while I'm washing dishes. Randy says, you're going to make a mess, and I say, it's just water, you know. So I do this the whole time, you know, that I'm washing dishes, okay. And so just move more and eat less is always our little acronym that we tell everybody. There used to be a bumper sticker here in South Carolina that said that. But eat more and move less. Eat less and move more. Yeah. Any questions about anything? Yes.
What's the difference between salt and sea salt?
Nothing really. Well, the salt's iodized, you know, that we have. But really, what happens with salt, it goes in a shaker, iodized salt, and we tend to just talk and shake. With sea salt, it doesn't fit in anybody's shaker, of course. You can grind it, all right? But it's coarser if you do the coarse sea salt, and it's strong. And so yes, yeah. And because there's more of it, the surface area. And so I have salt dishes. Yeah, I have salt dishes. And that way I just, you know, when they say pinch, but I use salt dishes. That's all we use. We don't use a shaker, yeah, for that very reason. It's funny, if you look at I've had this debate with my stepfather. He puts the salt in the one with the most holes. Okay.
One of the things too with the recipe, it says don't double your salt. The salt goes a long way.
Yeah, it does.
So if you're doubling the recipe, don't double your salt.
Right,
and
exactly.
There's still enough.
I just don't use sodium. I don't use salt in cooking, even if it's in a recipe, unless I'm making I just don't make cakes or pastries because we don't eat sweets. But just because I just want that person to add it. Everybody's got a different taste, aversion, if you will, to sodium. And so I just don't like to add it. I let folks add it themselves, but yeah. So, yeah. Another thing I want to mention too, I hear, I'm just talking about food, thinking about food. A lot of people think if they eat like they're going to get fat. Your body doesn't know what time of day it is. So that's an old wives' tale. Your body does not know what time of day it is. Eating late does not make you. So a lot of times people will come home if they're older, and if they've been to a meeting or they've been somewhere to a play, and they get home at 10 o'clock and they haven't had anything to eat, they go to bed hungry, and then they wake up the next morning with low blood sugars. They could fall, if your blood sugar gets low, whatever. So I always encourage, the only thing that eating late does to any individual is cause reflux. It takes 2.5 hours for your food to digest. So if you've had your last bite of spaghetti at 8 and you lie down at 9, that spaghetti's still in your stomach. And with that is acid, so it's going to come up and it's going to cause cough at night. You can get regurgitation. So if you happen to eat late, just sleep up on some pillows. But there's nothing wrong with eating late. So 3 good meals a day. Yeah. Anything? Yeah.
Well, this is a personal question.
Sure.
Because I have had so many dental challenges and appliances and all this crap. I don't eat a lot of meats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and poor dentation for whatever reason, whether people just, when you get older, like Randy had to have a tooth pulled not too long ago, and he's not going to replace that tooth, and so I don't know. He's only 65 years old, so I'm not sure if he's going to lose them anymore. But yeah, that would certainly happens. And so your chick, you just cut it up fine. The fish, it's hard to get good fish around here, but anyway, fish, yeah, just Publix, really, Ingles, but that's a problem sometimes too, is poor dentation if your teeth aren't really strong. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Also now, I don't know if anybody has tried this, anybody shops at Sam's, but Sam's has these prime rib round mini burgers.
Oh, really?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
Are they in this counter or are they on?
They're in that, not the one with
that's a good idea.
And the size of meat that you want to eat anyway.
Right.
I don't want a burger.
Right, right, right.
So I just freeze them and take out what I want.
Well, and that's a good point. That made me start thinking about folks, maybe like Beth, who maybe are widowed or by themselves. You know, Libby, live by yourself. Sometimes they don't cook. That's a problem sometimes too. You know, I just always encourage folks to, you know, just get a rotisserie chicken and just cook 2 days a week and just cook a lot and just eat off of it during the week because, you know, is that what you do, Libby? Yeah. I mean, people will resort to just a bowl of cereal, and that's fine as long as it's good cereal. You're getting your calcium and you're getting your grains, so it's just difficult to cook for one. So just if you can just kind of get your mind set to maybe cooking, you know, a couple times a week and put something in a crock pot and just eat off of it all week long, you know.
Or pop it in the freezer.
Yeah.
Which I frequently do because so many recipes are for 4 people.
Right, right.
And, so pop
Yes,
it
Beth?
in.
What do you think about the little bitty banquet chicken pot pie?
Okay. Yeah, so that's so when you go home, look at that label. Yeah, very full of sodium. I don't know of a chicken pot pie that's not full of sodium. How you know that? If something can sit on the shelf for a year without you eating it, then, or in the freezer is processed. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, you're headed right where.
Yeah, the processed foods.
Would you speak to the benefits of not eating highly processed foods versus
Yes.
fresh?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So what we know over time with processed foods is there's a very high risk of colon cancer with processed foods. Also, processed foods are just full of sodium. They're full of sodium. There may be something, Beth, that you can look at in the freezer. I really haven't looked. I will, and then I'll mention something else. But processed foods are just really full of sodium and saturated fat. They really are. If you can get fresh, you're better off. As somebody mentioned to me the other day about the Ezekiel breads that are frozen, and I did go and look at those. Are actually good. I mean, those are good for you. So I can't speak to, you know, that's a good frozen product. So there are some good frozen products. Healthy Choice Meals and Lean Cuisines are the two worst that anybody can get. I'm not sure which one it was, but it was about 5 or 6 years ago. One of them was held accountable to their label because it definitely wasn't healthy at all and had to go through some type of revamping of their package because they didn't list on there. Because if you look now on most like cereals, it lists in the very top what your saturated fat is and what your sodium is, your sugar is. Don't mention sodium because it's not in cereals. But it has it written up there because we have to let people know. We're all into label reading now. I guess you've seen that in a lot of restaurants, and it's very important that people, you know, put on there what you're eating and the calorie. We don't count calories. There's empty calories. Calories mean nothing to us. We as far as steps, I may have said this to Kathy in the past, but, you know, people will go, I got my 10,000 steps in today, and that's great. We love the steps, but people can get 10,000 steps in and have a Krispy Kreme donut in both hands. Okay? So just make sure when you get your steps in that those are qualified steps. You know, we want people to get their steps in. So, yeah, that just means you're moving more. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? I hope I've given y'all some information to think about, but really, I mean, all that being said, you know, follow your healthcare provider, what they've told you. But as we get a little bit older, we try to limit less unless we're dealing with heart failure and diabetes, just because when we start limiting people's diet, some people take it to the nth degree and just don't eat. And that's fearful. That people just don't eat because they're afraid. They just don't really know. They don't do what I do. You know, I tell my bankers I don't know how to count a lot of money because I've never had a lot of money at one time. And so, you know, don't try to take it to the limit in terms of limiting everything in your diet because it can be a little bit dangerous. Because you know, it's like a car with gas and no oil. It doesn't run without one or the other. And so you need the right amount of proteins, carbohydrates, which are your starches. And starches, what we do is we go by the fist. The fist is 1 cup for a female and 1.5 cups for a man, because starches turn to sugar, but that's good sugar. But when we limit our starches, people in Anderson think macaroni and cheese is a vegetable.
That's our argument.
But it's good. I love my mac and cheese. I love it. But just make sure but that's a starch. And what do starches do to us? Make us tired. What does a certain population who lives south of the equator do every day at 2 o'clock? Because they're carving out at lunch, yeah. So we just limit our carbs. One cup per meal or 2 slices of something for a female, and 1.5 cups for a man. And if it's orange, you can have a little bit more. Our carrots and
1 cup per meal.
1 cup per meal for a female. That's a cup of grits and no toast, or 1/2 cup of grits and a piece of toast. That's actually the diabetic diets. 2 slices of bread. But one thing I will tell you, if you're sitting down eating a sandwich, does your mouth really know there's a piece of bread on the top and the bottom? When you bite into it, it's all one piece. So if you're sitting down, we just use 1 piece of bread and put all the fixings you want on there and just, eat it slowly. But, if you just don't want to have to hold something. But 1 cup of meal, just like for dinner, a cup of rice or you can have more brown rice. Potatoes, a medium baked potato, yeah, you can have that, absolutely. Or if you're going to have a piece of corn that you grew in your garden, you can have an ear of corn and a 1/2 cup of potatoes, or 1/2 potato, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank y'all for having me, and I appreciate you having me.
You to the wall and said, you have to tell us. You've got to tell us. What kind of soup would you say is best to eat?
I do
Just don't say healthy choice.
well, I do, I don't even know the name. What's in the blue can? Progresso. That's what I do. And the healthy request part of that, yeah. The low sodium. That's why they have the low sodiums on the labels, because it's...
Like you said, Libby,
Mm-hmm.
those of us who live alone
Yeah.
have very different.
But I do eat the Progresso soups, yeah.
That's why I've got all of the banquet broccoli and chicken, the banquet beef and broccoli, whatever.
But now some of the frozen vegetables, now I'm not sure what's in that, but now if you get a frozen vegetable, that has nothing in it, okay? A frozen vegetable, frozen fruits, they don't have sodium in there, yeah.
It's just so different.
It is, and we do realize that, and that does get to be a problem, but,
Just make soups, I make pots of soup, and then
Yeah.
I just freeze them.
yeah.
In containers.
Yeah, you've got control over that. Your chicken, anytime you boil some chicken for chicken salad, keep that broth. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I decided I need to get rid of
I'll tell you one other thing. I was just thinking. One thing that I do is Randy and I do, and we've been doing it for years, is that I buy that Badia chia and flaxseed, and we put that in everything. You can't taste it. But that's it looks like, I put it on my eggs, but flaxseed and what that is known to lower cholesterol and things like that. Bring up your good cholesterol, your HDL.
And sunflower seeds are
They're good,
seeds
great,
that will
yeah.
add to the flavor.
Absolutely.
Is that the ground flax?
Yes, that's what I
It
use.
doesn't get stuck in your teeth.
That's right. Mine is ground. It's ground. It's the BADIA. It's at Ingles. It's in a huge box there, but I just sprinkle it in everything. Green beans, BADIA brand. It's not right where the spice. It's I know at Ingles it's near the salad dressings and stuff, but yeah, and that's where you get your fresh peppercorn and stuff like that. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for having me. And then after you eat good, you go to Kathy's yoga classes and then stay stretched.
Smartest.
You stretch. Sure.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you.